Hello, 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 hello. Good people, wherever you are, welcome to another day on my channel about Bible topics. As I always love to stay, whether you are a Buddhist, a Hindu, Muslim, Zoroastrianism, any other of those religions or beliefs, I welcome you to say, because as we know the Bible does have a long history. It is thanks to the good old Dead Sea Scrolls. We know the text is about roughly, definitely the Old Testament. The New Testament, from a biblical point of view, is relatively new, but we definitely know the Old Testament has several thousand years of history. So that's a religion or belief that you should say, hey, I may pay attention to this because this thing has been around for centuries, and we know many beliefs have come and gone. Many of them, you can read the Bible for some of them that come and gone. Worshiping Molech and all of them come and gone, but the God of the Bible is still here, so that says a lot. So my title for the day, dealing with burdens. Yes, burdens. And when you have a burden, it's good to have a good right hand or a good left hand person to help you carry that burden. So that's exactly the type it is. Biblical passages to show you other humans have attempted to carry another person's burden. And then, as you know, if you know anything about medicine, when we worry continuously, worry, it ebbs. It takes away some of your life force. When you have somebody there to shoulder your burden, you happy that you have somebody there, so that build up your morale somewhat. So let's jump right in and let's see what the Bible has to say about carrying your fellow man's burden. And we see right here, as I just now testified to in my little image, carrying someone's burden means you're giving them help. You're giving them help. Let me get my little marker working. You're giving the person some form of help. That's number one. Number two, you're giving some form of support. So that's some of the things that happens when you're trying to giving your helping somebody else out. You're giving help and you're giving support, and that can goes a long way. And you heard the expression, what comes around goes around. You help them when they down, they turn around and help you when you down. So let's move right on forward. Alright, so this is coming from the book of John, the New Testament. I'm jumping right into the New Testament. Chapter 13, verse 34. And I chose this for a reason, because this little passage right here encapsulates everything we're going to be going over today. And it's coming from Jesus' mouth himself. And you know, from a historical point of view, I'm not going to get into the God aspect of it. From a historical point of view, you know, Jesus has been a very important figure in history. So this historical man is talking now. He said, a new command I give you. So it's a new command I give you. Love. That says it all. Love one another, and not the romantic type of love either, because I know some people, there's different forms of love. If you didn't think about the Greek language, there's different forms of love, but I'm not going to go over it. Love one another. And he said, as I have loved you. So when Christ was on this earth, he loved his disciples. He loved the group of people who was with him all the time. He loved them. As I have loved you, so must you love one another. So he's saying here, the way I have loved you, and you have seen the way I have loved all of you. You love each other that exact same way. I never put nobody down. I never called no one a blankety blank. I never insulted your mother, your father. Whenever you was down, I'm there for you and I showed you love. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples. By showing love, we're telling the world, the universe, that we are followers of Christ. If, here we go again, and he stresses over and over, if you love one another. That is basically the theme of this lesson. When you carry someone's burden, you basically showing love. Now let's see what we got. Okay, so this is coming from the book of Exodus, Exodus chapter 4, verse 10 to 17. Moses said to the Lord, Lord, I'm not a man of many words. He was saying, I'm inadequate, Lord. I have never been. So, unlike the Ten Commandment movie that we see, he's an eloquent speaker, but the real Moses said, I never was an eloquent man. Even now, since you spoke to your servant, I am still not. He said, I'm still not a person who can craft words easily. For I am slow he said, I'm slow talking. And it is difficult for me to speak. So I never realized I always knew that Moses needed help. But now, since I'm going over this lesson, I know he was a slow talker. But I never realized, he said, it is difficult for me to speak. Then the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? See? Who makes a man not able to speak or hear? Who makes one blind or able to see? Is it not I, the Lord? So go now. He said, you still do the mission I gave you. And I will be your mouth. As God said, I will talk for you. God basically said right here, I will carry your burden. He's not human, but he said, I will carry your burden. I will teach you what to say. So God himself is basically saying, I will help you. I will carry your burden. You're not an eloquent speaker. Don't worry about that, Moses. Don't worry. I've made the mouth. I made the eyes. I made the ears. You just follow me, and I'll carry you. I will carry your burden. That's what God's saying. But now we still got more to read. So let's see. Verse 3. But Moses said, oh Lord, I ask of you, send someone else. See? Moses was adamant. He didn't want to do it because he said, I'm inadequate. Then the anger of the Lord burned against Moses. See, God get angry when you meet God face to face and he tell you to do something. You keep flabbergasting him, keep flipping over. He gets angry. He said, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? So Aaron is his brother. I know he can speak well. So he said, okay. He said, your brother is an eloquent speaker. I know he can speak well. See, God said, because he know everything. Also, he is coming to meet you. And when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. See, that's what happens when a person is willing to carry your burden. They're happy to do it. You must speak to him and put words in his mouth. So Moses said, look, you may not like talking in front of a crowd, but Aaron is your brother, who you know is your brother. You can talk to your brother. You talk to him, and he'll tell the people what I want. I will be with your mouth and his mouth. I will teach you what you are to do. He will speak to the people for you, see? He's going to carry Moses' burden. Moses, you won't have to speak to the people. See, you don't have to speak to people. Aaron will speak to the thousands, the 10,000, the 100,000, maybe even millions. Aaron will talk to those people. So this is what God said. He said, he will be a mouth for you. He's going to carry your burden. And you will be as a guard to him. You will take this special stick in your hand and you will use it to make special things happen for God's purpose. But we see right here, people, God, he said, I will be there to carry your burdens. And if you don't want me to do it, if you don't feel comfortable with me coming to be your helper, he said, I will send you another human being. In this case, the other person he sent was Aaron, Moses' brother. He said, you can see him face to face. The people can see him face to face. He said, so he's going to be your mouth, Moses. But my main thing, people, God wanted to carry Moses' burden. When that wasn't enough and Moses still complaining about God, he said, I'm going to send you a physical human to help you carry your burden. Your brother Aaron will be there to carry your burden. So let's move on. Now this comes from 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 1 to 5 or 6. As soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. So knit means it was tightly wound. It was tightly bound to David. That's how close Jonathan and David were. Their spirits was melded together. And Jonathan loved him as his own soul. See, that's how much Jonathan loved him. He said, as his own soul. The way Jonathan loved himself, that's the same way he loved David. And Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. He's talking about David. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David. See? A special pact. Yeah, a seal. He made a seal with David because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David. And you know, if you know the name of the Bible, at that time, Saul was the king of Israel. And Jonathan was the son of Saul, so he was a prince. So he had royalty in him. Because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David. And his armor, and even his sword, and his bow and belt. So he gave all of these to David. Because that's how much he was willing to help the person who loved like his own soul. And David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him. So that Saul set him over the men of war. And this was good in the sight of all the people and also in the sight of Saul's servants. Now the theme here, people, if you know anything about 1 Samuel 18, you know anything about that, you know King Saul became jealous of David. If you ever read the story, you can hear this is what enraged him. The woman was singing and dancing. He said, Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his 10,000. That really aged Saul to death. He never let that go. When them women started saying that, David, who Saul loved at first, became Saul's enemy. You can say he was jealous of David, really. He was jealous. But, as you can see here, Jonathan's son, or Saul's son, Jonathan, was there to carry David's burden. He said, whatever my father had against you, David, I don't have no hostilities. I will help you to avoid him. I will be your eyes and ears. I will protect you, and I will be with you. That's how much I love you like my own soul. So we see here, Jonathan carried David's burden. Because David, he was burdened. It upset him immensely that King Saul wanted to kill him. It gave him a ray of hope to know that his brother in spirit, Jonathan, was there to give him support. Jonathan was there to help David with his burden, dealing with his father Saul. So let's go on. Let's see what we got next. Next, let's go to Kings, 2 Kings, chapter, I think it's 23. I'm not sure. It got cut off. I'm sorry about that, people. This is verse 3 to 4. There was a company of prophets at Bethel. They came out to where Elisha was. They asked him, do you know what the Lord is going to do? He's going to take your master today. So, God was going to take away Elisha. They're going to take him today. Yes, I know, Elisha replied, but don't talk about it. Then Elijah said to him, stay here, Elisha. The Lord has sent me to Jericho. Elisha replied, I won't leave you. I'm here to help you. I will be with you through thick and thin. I will help you with any burden you have. Your troubles is my trouble. Whatever God says to you, it will apply to me. Wherever God tells you to go, I will go. I won't stay here and relax myself. It take you 5 days to get to Jericho. I will walk to 5 days with you. You will not be alone. Elisha replied, I won't leave you. Like he's right here. He said, I will not leave you. I won't leave you. And that's just as sure as the Lord you are alive. So, Elijah had to listen to his trainee, who was Elisha, and they went. The theme here, we see right here. Even though God had something planned good for Elijah, Elisha clung to him. Elisha said, whatever burdens you have, good or bad, I will always be there to help you carry that load. So let's go on to the next scripture, people. This coming from Job chapter 2, verse 11 to 13. Now, Job's 3 friends. So we already see right here. We know what's going to happen. His 3 friends. Job's 3 friends. His 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him. If you know anything about Job, if you ever read the Bible about Job, you know Satan had it in for Job. He sent Job a number of disasters. So this time, when they heard about it, his 3 good friends came to comfort him. All the evil was come upon him. They came, everyone from his own place. So they left their own house. Eliphaz, the Temanite, Bildad, the Shunammite, and Zophar, the Naamathite. For they had made an appointment together to come to mourn. See, they carried his burden. They come to mourn with him. And to comfort. See, when you carry somebody's burden, you come to give him comfort, like Elijah, who we just read about. He gave Elijah comfort. Because Elijah didn't say you can't come. He said, okay, you can come with me to Jericho. But we see here, Job's 3 friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, they came to mourn with him and to give him comfort during his time of need. And when they lifted up their eyes afar and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept because they cried. Because I said, if you read the story about Job, you know many satanic disaster events happened to him. They didn't even recognize him until so much trouble happened. They couldn't even recognize him. And they rent everyone his mantle and sprinkled dust upon their heads toward heaven. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none, see, that's how they carried his burden. They did not offer a word. They sat there 7 days and 7 nights. None spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great. Sometimes when a person is there to carry your burden, they see that your grief, your trouble is overpowering. They don't come there to give their 2 cents. They say yada, yada, yada. His friends did not come there to give their opinion. A lot of times in life, especially here in the Western world, people love to give their opinion. At this stage of the development, Job's friends, his 3 friends just came there to give him comfort and to mourn with him. They didn't say one word. Sometimes that can be the best help when you're mourning. The person that's come there, a physical presence can lift your spirit up immensely. And this is what they gave him. This is what they gave Job. Just a simple physical presence. They didn't say, what can I do for you? Where do you want to go? How much money you need? They didn't say none of that. Just came to give physical comfort to Job. Let's go on. All right, this coming from 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 10 to 11. David was told Uriah did not go home. So he asked Uriah, haven't you just come from a military campaign? Why didn't you go home? Now here's a little backstory about Uriah. Uriah is the husband. If you never read this story before, but you probably heard of the lady I'm going to tell you about. Uriah is the husband of Bathsheba. King David impregnated Bathsheba while Uriah was out there on military duty. So Bathsheba told David, I'm pregnant. So King David sent word to the military people to let Uriah come home. David wanted Uriah to sleep with his wife so he can claim the baby as his. But it didn't work out the way David wanted to. It worked out far different. So you got a little backdrop on that story about Uriah. Uriah said to David, the ark and Israel are in tents, and my commander Joab and my Lord's men are camped in the open country. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and make love to my wife? As surely as you live, I will not do such a thing again. There's not one physical person he dealing with here. He giving his burden to David and his commanders. He said, and his other officers who serve him. He said, how can I go and sleep with my wife while the other military men, not with their wife, the other military men out there engaging in battle? How can I go home, eat, drink, and be married and be with my wife while my friends, my fellow comrades are engaged in heavy battle? He said, I won't do it. I'm not going to go home. I'm not going to sleep with my wife. Their burden was carried by Uriah. Unfortunately, something happened sad to Uriah at the end because King David didn't get what he wanted. But you can go to 2 Samuel chapter 11 and read what happened to poor Uriah. But we still see the type of heart that he had. He had a heart of service. Uriah had a heart to carry his fellow man's burden. In this case, he's carrying a burden for his commanders and his fellow military officers or troops or soldiers. He kind of burden for them. But we see he took his level of burden to another level, because his level of burden is not just for one person. It's for a company of men, not just for one individual. Alright, let's go on to the next scripture and see what we got next. Alright, this is coming from Ruth. Now, I love this story. We don't hate too much about Ruth, but I know about her. Ruth chapter 1, verse 12 to 15. This is a beautiful story. Return home, my daughters. I'm too old to have another husband. She can't have a husband no more. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to two sons. See, her sons are gone. So this lady right here, the lady who's speaking, I see this is Naomi. Naomi, the lady who's speaking, she lost her husband and she lost her two sons. She lost basically everything, realistically. But she's speaking to her daughter-in-laws now. She's telling her daughter-in-law to go home. Would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? So even if I had another husband, and if I had sons, you know, you a grown woman, there's little kids. There'd be a child. Would you wait for my young sons to reach marital age? You'll be well up in years by then. No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you. Naomi said, look, it will hurt me more if I got another husband and had two new sons. It still will hurt me to make you wait years to get married to them. No, my daughter, it's more bitter for me than for you. And she said the bitterness too is including the loss of her husband and her sons. Because the Lord has turned against me. Now she's acting realistic. You know when bad things happen to us, we say God did this to us. That's what Naomi is basically saying. God has done this to me. All at this they wept aloud. So that means all her daughters daughters-in-law, all her daughters-in-law, I believe she had 3 in total, it could be more. At this, they wept aloud, because her daughter-in-laws really loved her as a mother-in-law. There was no conflict. They loved their mother-in-law. Then Oprah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye. So Oprah went home. See, Oprah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, and she left. But Ruth, the title of this book, clung to her. So we see Ruth clung to her. Ruth is willing to bear the burden that her mother-in-law is facing. The despair she has against God, the despair she had in losing her husband, and the despair she's now facing in losing her sons. Remember, she basically lost everything, even in real life. If a woman just has sons, she loses her husband, she loses her sons, she lost everything. That's how Naomi felt. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law, so she had 2 sons really, Oprah and Ruth, so she just had 2 sons. Your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Okay, yes, her gods. Go back with her. So Naomi, her love for Ruth, she cared about Ruth, the future Ruth. She told Ruth, go back home to be with your people and with your gods. I want you to get married again. But Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. That's how much she loved her mother-in-law. Where you go, this is important. She said, where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God. So she took her level of love to a high level. Because remember Jesus said in the beginning, I read, love one another. That encapsulates carrying somebody's burden. If you can love like the way he loved, you can carry people's burden. Ruth left her mother-in-law to the level that Jesus said, where you die, I will die. And there I will be buried with you. And I'll be buried right beside you. If I have my way, if Ruth had her way, she would be buried right next to Naomi, because that's how much she loved her mother-in-law. And I can see it now. When her husband was alive, Ruth was right underneath Naomi, joking and laughing and having fun. See, we gotta take it to that level. When Ruth's husband was alive, she was right with her mother-in-law, joking and laughing. That's how much she loved her mother-in-law. She said, your burden is my burden. Where you go, I go. Where you sleep, I sleep. Your God will be my God. She said, where you die, I will die right there with you. Where you die, I will die. And there I will be buried right with you, like I just now said. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. That's how much she said. Death will not even separate us. She said, I love you so much, mother-in-law. I love you so much, Naomi. Death will not separate us. So this is the highest level that one can have for carrying someone's burden. Ruth loved her mother-in-law Naomi with an extreme amount of love. The highest, she loved her with a godly form of love. When you love that way, it's easy to help somebody with their burden. Easy. So let's go to the next scripture. Now, still Old Testament people. We're jumping right into Proverbs chapter 31. And this came to me a couple days ago. She opened her arms to the poor and extends her hand to the needy. I got this in the well-known Proverbs chapter 31. They're talking about a wife of noble character. But we usually skip over this part right here. She opens her arms to the poor. See? Her arms are open to the poor. What does that mean? When your arms are open to the poor, you are willing to carry their burden. And she extends her hand to the needy. She is willing. This godly woman A woman of exceptional quality. That's what it said. That chapter, Proverbs 31, a woman of exceptional quality. Because most of the time it is done with her and her family. But I put this out because she said she loves even other people. She loves other people. She will carry other people's burdens because number one, her arms are open to the poor. Number two, her hand extends to the needy. So this woman of exceptional character that we heard about in Proverbs 31, she truly is an exceptional woman because she's not just dealing with her family. Like Proverbs 31 really focused on her family, but I took this because it said she helps those in need. She will help the poor. She will carry their burden. Alright, this is Psalm 81, verse 6. I relieve. That means I took the load off. I took the load. I relieve his shoulder of our main thing, burden. His hands were free from the basket. Free from the basket. The main thing here is not people is look. When you help somebody with their burden, you help to free them from their heartache and trouble. I relieve his shoulder of the burden. I help take that heavy load off of him. I help him to carry that what? I help them take care of them bills. I helped him with his hard-headed children. I was there for him when he had marital trouble. I was there for him or her to help them. I carried that burden. I listened to them. And if they wanted me to, excuse me, I gave them advice. And I gave them godly, spiritual, sound advice. Let's go and see what we got next. This comes from Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verse 10. If either of them falls down, so we know this talking about burden there because you falling down. One can help the other. See, that's big. Up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help him. So pity. I think that said that in the very beginning. When you carry someone's burden, that means you have an extra source to come. But he said, look, it's a sad thing in life when a person has to go through a lot of struggles on their own. They have no one to help them carry their burden. They have no one to give them hope. They have no other human to be a ray of sunshine to them. Pity that person. Because when you fall, like when you was a child, your parents, your relatives help you up. When a person is going through something in life, when you carrying someone's burden, that means that person has fallen. I'm there to help pick you up. Whether they may not have to fall physically, they fell emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. It's a wonderful thing when you have someone to be there to help pick you up. Like I said, it's a pity. It's a sad thing when you're going through turmoil in your life and you have no one to help you. That's a sad thing. Alright, we're back in Proverbs again. This is chapter 17, verse 17. A friend loves at all times. And we already started with Job and his 3 friends. His friends accomplish what God says. A friend loves at all times. And a brother is born for a time of adversity. Ideally, that's what a brother is born for. A time of great need. But a friend loves at all times. And we've seen over and over in the scriptures that I read that people love their friends. And when a friend loves you at all times, they will definitely be there to carry you when adversity comes. They will be there to help you carry that burden. They will be there to help you carry that burden. But a friend loves at all times. When you love at all times, that means I'm with you during the happy days, and I'm with you during the rainy days. I'm with you when the sun is out, and I'm with you when that thunderstorm comes. I got your back, you got my back. We're in this together. I will carry your burden. Alright, well, I'm sorry, that's a long one, people. I'm sorry, please forgive me. That's a long one. I'm going back again to King David. It's verse 1 to 25, verse 10 to 18. So forgive me, it's long. Nabal answered David's servant, "Who is this David? Who is the son of Jesse? Many servants are breaking away from their master these days. He's breaking away from Saul." That's what Nabal was thinking. "Why should I take my bread and water and the meat I have slaughtered for my shearers and give it to men coming from who knows where?" So we already see the type of man Nabal is. David's men turned around and went back. When they arrived, they reported every word. David said to his men, "Each of you strap on your sword." Okay, so David had to take axes here. So they did. And David strapped his on as well. About 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with his supplies. One of the servants told Abigail, Nabal's wife, so we're going to see how wonderful it is. Let me underline her name. Abigail. We're going to see how wonderful she is. David sent a message. So David didn't just come in there and start slaughtering people. He did give them a warning. David sent a message from the wilderness to give our masters his greeting, but he hurled insults at him. That was Nabal insulting David, saying, "Who is this?" Yet these men were very good. So this is Nabal's servants talking now. Yet these men were very good to us. They did not mistreat us, and the whole time we were out in the fields near them, nothing was missing. Night and day, they were a wall around us, and the whole time we were herding our sheep near them. Now think it over and see what you can do. So they're talking to Nabal's wife. You know, Nabal's had a godly wife who had a clear, level head. Abigail, who later became David's wife, if you read on, had a clear, level head. David fell in love with her. Now think over and see what you can do, because disaster is hanging over our master and his whole household. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him. So he was stubborn, loud mouth, as we saw, and he refused to listen to anyone. So let's keep reading and see what happens, people. Abigail acted quickly. Remember, she was a godly woman. She was clear-headed and level thinking. She took 200 loaves of bread, 200 skins of wine, 5 dressed-up sheep, 5 seeds of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. Then she told her servants, "Go ahead, I'll follow you." But she did not tell her husband, Nabal. Now, there's 2 things I see here. See, Nabal, remember, she was a godly wife. So she's carrying 2 burdens here. Nabal, her wicked husband. He don't know it, but his wife is carrying a burden for him to take care of these men who did not treat his servants or sheep wrong in any way. She is carrying his burden on how to treat well-behaved individuals. That's what her first burden that she's carrying. And plus she had to take out her burden dealing with his attitude too. Remember, she knew what a wicked man. He probably treated his wife nice. They never said about that. He probably treated Abigail nice, but anybody else he treated with a wicked, arrogant, nasty behavior. So Abigail knew what type of man she was, so she carried that burden of trying to do good for her husband. Her second deed is she carried the burden of David and his men. She knew that they was out in the fields, starving, thirsty, tired. She carried their burden. When she carried their burden, you see she sent them food, drinks, and everything. So now David's burden that she dealt with is more explicit in the Bible, because we see what she did for him. She's carrying the burden of David, King David. He wasn't a king yet, but I think the prophet made him king, but he didn't have kingship yet. Samuel made him king, but David wasn't the king yet because Saul still was alive. He was running for his life from Saul, as I said earlier a little bit. But Abigail she carried the burden for him and helped him and his men. Let's go on, good people. Are we still in the Old Testament? 1 Kings chapter 17. It's not this long this time. Starting at verse 2 to verse 6. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Leave here, turn eastward, and hide in Kirith Raven, east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I had directed the ravens. I had directed the ravens to supply you with food there. And it's important here. I'm going to go over it when I'm finished. So he did what the Lord had told him. He went to Kirith Raven, east of the Jordan, and stayed there. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening. And he drank from the brook. Even the animals, I think, hey people, even the animals can help us. Even the animals can carry our burden. His burden here, Elijah, the prophet, was sent to the Jordan with no money. I take it, nothing to eat. He did have the brook to drink from, but he didn't have nothing to eat. The ravens carried the burden by supplying him with adequate food, so he didn't starve to death. The ravens came to his aid. The ravens, the bird, lifted his spirits up. So that's it, my good people. Thank you for stopping by for our lesson on the importance on carrying our fellow man's burden. The biggest takeaway that we learned from this is that even the animals will come and carry the load for us when we can't go no further. Heavenly Father, thank you for this lesson. I pray that this lesson is a blessing to the hearer, because it is a blessing for me. It shows that we are to do what Christ said. Love one another. When we love one another, we will gladly come and take on the burden of those friends, family members, and associates who will help them with their burden. Thank you for this lesson in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you for stopping by, people. Till the next time, peace. Okay, you can listen.